still to join us, they will join us along the way. We make comments now. Just like to greet everyone in the audience, everyone who's the participants, everyone who's attending. Thank you very much for making time and to just be with us today. Our moderator for today's session is D, aka Limpo, aka Dimpo Moeti. And I will just read a few words just to explain what the project is about for people who might not be fully aware what it is about. And then I'll hand over to her. I will not be speaking from now on, I promise. So Every Game Counts is a gaming project of the Goethe-Institut Johannesburg that promotes diversity and equality in and within the gaming industry. Every Game Counts aims to strengthen the inclusion, networking, and visibility of underrepresented groups in the South African gaming scene and global gaming scene, and creates platforms that put the issue of diversity up for discussion. Every Game Counts is, of course, a project of the Federal Foreign Office and the Goethe-Institut in South Africa and Romania. I think I need to explain a little bit more. I think we didn't go in depth in terms of that on the last session yesterday. What we mean when we say South Africa and Romania is because the Every Game Accounts is actually concurrently running at the same time in between those two countries. So this is us here and there. We're all together. So if you hashtag Every Game Accounts, you don't be surprised if you see some content from our counterparts in Europe. We are all in this together. All right, so over to you, Dimpo.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the panel. I would do more to introduce it, but once again, I've already been out introduced by our delightful host. So what I'd like us to do is to just go around the room, do some nice introductions, and then I will start asking the very serious and important questions that we need to discuss today, like which Fallout New Vegas DLC is your favorite? All right, let's start off with Rohan. Hi, Rohan. Please introduce yourself to everyone.
Cool. I'm a game developer at Free Lives. I've been working there for 3 years at the moment, and I'm working on a game called Stick It to the Stickman that got announced last week. So yeah, that's where I am. I also studied at Wits game design for 4 years and have a bit of like UX, UI background too. Yep.
Amazing, thank you. Nkateko, did I get that right?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So my name is Nkateko. I'm a game developer from South Game Studio, a female-owned game studio in South Africa. So I studied IT at Damlin College for 3 years. And then I went and worked for Foch, which is a German company. I did a bit of VR there. So I did, I think a year and a half with VR. And then from there in 2021, then I joined a program with IT Think, the gaming program. And then basically that's where I started developing games. Yeah, and the game that we currently developing is called Sizwe Iqhawekazi YakwaZulu.
That is a beautiful name. I mean, as a Sesotho woman, I don't understand, but I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sithe.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sithe. I am currently working at Nyamakop as an associate producer, but I have been in the industry for about since 2013, not 13 years. Since 2013, starting with communities organizing in Zambia and growing our game development community, or starting to grow our game development community, and then working with Global Game Jam as a regional organizer, growing the African Global Game Jam community and increasing participation of countries there. And yeah, I've also worked at some various game development or game development type focused events, curation, stuff like that. Amaze. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've done.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much. Bethlehem was here, but we've seemed to have lost her again. So I think we're just going to move forward. And when Bethlehem comes back in, we'll have her introduce herself and ask some pressing questions. Excellent. All right. So the way I'm going to try to do this is I'm going to ask some questions and then throw it to each panelist. Basically, I'm shamelessly stealing what Ben did yesterday, as someone has to, because it's quite useful. So I'm going to throw some questions around. Everybody get ready. I'm going to start with Sita first. Sita, what has been your experience as a woman in game development, and what do you feel has been really helpful for you?
So as a woman in game development, I would say starting out, initially it's hard to find other women in game development. That's partially why I started my own personal project to document African women in games, because I was looking for more African women in games, and I wanted to show that they were there because I believed that they were certainly there. So my experience is that they're hard to find, like it's hard to find peers like who are women, and also that representation kind of ends up, it makes me feel uncertain. Well, personally, it makes me feel uncertain, like whether I belonged here sometimes and stuff like that. I don't know how, I don't know too much. I don't know how much I want to get into how it made me feel and all that stuff, but generally it just made me feel a bit like I don't know if I belong here in some types of way. But then knowing other people who work in the industry like you, Dimpo, and the other people who I've met along the way, and people joining through various paths. Also, the other interesting thing is, like, I love the variety of paths of entry other women have had in the games industry, because I think in terms of being exposed to the diversity in roles in game development, I was mostly exposed through the women in the industry, because I think at the moment I know more producers in the country who are not men and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty interesting for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vita. That's super valuable. Bethlehem, hi, how are you doing?
Hi there, how are you, Dimpo?
Good, how are you doing? If it's possible, I'm just going to ask you to please do just a quick intro.
From the fact that just a power shut down. So quick, hopefully that you can hear me. I'm just turning my video off to help moderate the connection. So
Ooh, you're breaking up a little bit.
Based in Ethiopia, and I work around games and their I work around game.
Oh, there we go. Like, just as you got to work in games, you were okay, and then it cut off again. I will try and throw it back to you a bit later. Hopefully the line will be a bit clearer. We've all been there with load shedding that has ruined our plans and our lives. So for now, Nkateko, what has your experience in games been like? What really helped you throughout your process in getting into games and your experience?
So actually, initially, I never thought I'd be a game developer. Actually, I always wanted to be a doctor. Just gonna put it out there. Um, so, but I guess with the opportunity that I got from IT thing, it actually made me see a potential in me having a career in the gaming industry. So as much as I enjoy getting up in the morning and going to work because I'm doing what I love, it's actually hard being in a male-dominated industry. For me, I feel it. Like I feel the pressure. And even as much as people say, no, we're not trying to make it obvious that you're a female in gaming, like it just comes out naturally without people even having to say anything. So yeah, it has been a tough journey, but also very interesting.
Thank you so much. But yeah, I know exactly how that feeling of like, yeah, I'm a woman in game. I can't really hide it. Rohan, for you, what's it been like being in the games industry as someone from a marginalized and less represented community, and what experiences have helped you along as well?
Yeah, so I personally, I think that in the professional part, it's been like a bit weird to not see diversity as much. I mean, when I studied, I feel like, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's a bit more representative of like other, like, yeah, just different races. But I think, yeah, the working in like a professional capacity just feels like as a person from like a person of color, just you have to like do more work, or it's like expected that you do more work and speak about the stuff, whereas you don't necessarily have to do that. Yeah, you know,
Yes,
if you white,
but when we're
yeah,
done.
yeah. So I guess like these kind of like conversations and stuff are like good for that. But it's also you expected to just do more in general because you need to show representation. Because yeah, you don't want to have like upcoming game devs feel like they're not represented.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much for the answer, Rohan. Bethlehem, I'm hoping, let's see if the internet will do right by you. What have your experiences been, particularly within esports?
Let's see, and just let me know if the problem persists. But better?
Much better. We can hear you now. I'm so happy.
Perfect. So I guess for me, what it really comes down is to now that Europe, especially we are within the gaming scene, more struggling with creating awareness that, you know, within getting into the industry of gaming has its own potential, has its own resources by itself. So I would say that coming from inclusivity, we are lacking more in that terms because there's really not that strong side to, you know, being bold enough to say that the games industry actually are going to be successful enough to make it social networks as well. So I think coming challenges, I think from what the rest of you guys in different countries are facing, but I think the diversity comes from that instead of that we don't have right now. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Bethlehem. Rohan, I'm going to ask you, what do you think are some of the, do you feel as though you've been impacted by structural barriers? And if so, were there any you were able to overcome, or do you feel like you can see some structural barriers that may impact others?
Yeah, so for me, I'm very lucky and privileged to have gone to university and studied this game design and gotten into the industry that way. So yeah, I guess for me, there wasn't structural barriers, but obviously like, you know, in terms of like just the population in South Africa, it's like, there's obviously like education, access to internet, like a computer also, like that are already like barriers to even like start making a game. And then on top of that, there's like not enough jobs in the industry in South Africa, and like and so you have to like question, do you go into like programming or gaming where you can actually make money, or it's more like guaranteed to make money in programming with more jobs and stuff. Whereas yeah, the gaming industry is like, at least South African gaming industry is a bit like chance based. Yeah, exactly. It's small and only a handful of people get the opportunity, and it's usually people who come from like more privileged backgrounds and don't have those barriers in place that get the opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Sita, how do you feel? What have been some of the barriers that you've struggled with? What's helped you overcome?
Let's see, in terms of structural barriers, I was really just thinking about everything Rohan said, like thinking more of a larger scale of things, that it's quite difficult for people to get into the industry because of the lack of jobs. And in fact, I don't have a background, like I studied computer science, but I didn't study game development. And I'm from Zambia originally. And if I were to stay, I was able to come to South Africa to study computer science. I could have still studied it in Zambia, but in terms of being exposed to game development resources and tools and stuff like that, I don't think I would have had as much exposure in Zambia. And I can see the barriers on an international level. Like I feel like South Africa is the only place that you can study game development at a tertiary institution, like or let me say public universities probably, and there are probably a few private institutions, but as far as the universities I know, they don't offer courses related to game development. And in fact, it seems like South Africa is nicely positioned to have things like national or things like funding or initiatives that can support people moving forward with game development. So in terms of looking at barriers and looking at them on a larger scale, I see the people who are disadvantaged within South Africa within entering the industry, but then I also see the people who are disadvantaged on an international scale, like within Africa, who have a harder time getting into the industry. So that's what I see from my perspective.
I mean, that's a very good point and true. Nkateko, how about for you? What has your experience has been like? Do you feel it's similar?
Honestly, I feel like it's very much similar. But also I just wanted to add a point about, like high startup costs. I mean, for one to be successful in this field, like it requires one to have experience in, well, I want to say playing games, and have an understanding in the field of programming. Well, but not only programming, all these other fields as well, because the industry is quite huge. It's not just about programming, you know, you have your graphic designers and. Yeah, I think also competition in a way. Yeah, there's so many industries like with game developers, but the competition is always high. So yeah, those are some of the points that I've also seen.
Bethlehem, how about for you? I mean, what do you think are some of the barriers that are hindering entering the games industry space? Have you experienced them yourself?
I think specifically here, the biggest barrier would be because there are, but I think the limitations come from being able to use and understand games to create new forms of patterns, new alternative methods, you know, because it's always the competition in the industry where not and so on. So it's always under the pressure, specifically the gaming industry, under the pressure to look for something new. And so because they're just also in a similar pace, it's always difficult to break out of that, create something different, something alternative. And so this only comes by understanding really the deep core sciences and arts of games. Of course, the program still so far matters, but so I would say that it ties down to really sitting down and having a conversation with how people interact with computers and empathy. This again boils down to having the right set of toolkits or study guides and so on. And so I would say that is the base or the core of barriers. I think that most of the countries in the gaming scene face as a difficulty. But diverse backgrounds of people to enter. It's, for example, for making this and that type of experiences in the games, there's usually a certain type of like-minded people in the scene. And so breaking from that also helps, encourage more personalities, more dreams to come true. So that's what I would say is a challenge.
Thank you so much. I mean, that's really interesting. It kind of leads to my next question, which is a little bit more fun and a little less serious, which is, what is the game that got you excited about making games? What is the game that made you fall in love and want to create games? Sita, we'll start with you.
I actually don't have a specific game that made me think that way. I guess maybe board games in general, because when I was younger and we were bored, we would cut up like cardboard and stuff like that and make like our own games, our own card games and our own board games. So maybe that. That's the
How
closest
old
I
were
can think
you
of.
when you made your first board game and or card game, Sita?
I don't know, but I was less than 10. And I remember it was called Ordinary Days with a Z. It was like it was like Monopoly, but you're living a normal day life, like, things like brushing your teeth, doing your homework, and then you can instead of going to jail, you get detention and stuff like that. Yeah.
That is so adorable and amazing. Nkateko, what about you? Was there a game that got you inspired, made you fall in love with video games or working in the industry?
Well, growing up, I think my favorite game when I was growing up was Sonic the Hedgehog. I used to love that. I used to love that. But in terms of getting into the industry, I'd say at like my previous workplace with the VR, we were actually like developing educational content for FET students. So we would take their content and actually put it into VR and then get to, interact with whatever topic it is and literally do practicals in the VR world. So that actually got me into the industry.
Incredible. That's amazing. Rohan? I mean, I had a joke at the end of this, but I'm not going to say because all these answers have been great.
For me, I mean, I played games growing up, but I never wanted to make games. And then I think like 2015, someone showed me indie games. That's when I was studying. So Binding of Isaac is like my game that made it seem like it's accessible, or like I could make a game. Like a lot of the games I played when I was growing up just seemed too big to make, or like seemed like magic. Whereas Binding of Isaac felt like very small, and yeah, that it was like doable, I guess. Yeah.
That's really
Even
cool.
though that game is not, I can't make that game, but it seemed like
I mean, you can if you believe in yourself. Believe in
Yeah,
yourself,
sure.
Rohan. You can make
Yeah.
any game.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe.
Believe. Bethlehem, like what is that really got you interested and excited about making being involved in games, whether through esports or development?
I think for me, it was actually like a really different set of stimuli, basically. And I actually started out as an architect, right? I'm an architect, but it was really at the end of my year when I started to look for, this human-centered, more in-depth connection that we could make with architecture that I couldn't find in architectural books, basically. And so this is just what really led me towards finding games and this human-centered connection that, I was actually able to apply for architecture on my thesis day. And then that turned out really splendid. And I said, okay, games are just really perfect. But I didn't know how to really enter the industry. Or I didn't know how that if I would stay in the industry. And it was only like 2 years later or so that I started out in the games, that I connected with an EA personnel, with one of my most profound mentors there, and really introduced us to how like EA actually started out when it was like in its glorious times. They had this motto that was almost like a legend that said, can a computer make you cry? And so it was this brief that actually got the whole team going into making this most interactive, most emotional, connection, and feeling towards feeling empathy towards this computer human connection. And so I think that's architecture made me find games, but EA kind of made me stay in the industry. So yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, that is a beautiful way to talk about games as these almost empathy machines where you can build and create empathy through different experiences, even if that is empathy for people who play Call of Duty. It's tough. I can't be serious all the time, guys. I've tried. I mean, that's really interesting to think of. Bethlehem, for you, if you could like make a wish and change one thing, or really anything about the industry, what is it that you'd like to see change? Like, what would you change about the industry?
That's a huge question, right? I would say that this element of building radically becomes sort of an element into the industry too. not only seeing games as an entertainment within the entertainment role could be like a huge shift towards the industry, I would say, because I don't know if many of the job opportunities or funding opportunities that we're lacking comes from, understanding from clients or organizations that there's not much that games could do, even as entertainment, right? And it's not just in Africa, right? Anywhere globally, there's this huge challenge. There's this big barrier that lacking of an understanding of what games can do. But so I would say that this reframing around the mindset of the potential of games would be a huge shift, because afterwards what can come out of it is really beyond any industry pioneer, right? It's about the people who make it afterwards, and it's about the people who play it. And so it's this huge collective thing that we just can't grasp anymore, that I wish would just change. Yeah.
I really agree with that. I think it's quite interesting how we're not looking more into how the playing of games impacts how we perceive the world. I mean, it's obvious that games aren't going to make you violent, but they will definitely inform your perceptions of the world and what is possible and what isn't. So I agree very strongly with that. Sita, how about you? Like, snap your fingers, what did you change?
Man, okay, if I could change anything about the industry itself, I would, I don't know, I don't even know how to achieve this. I guess have some form of infrastructure that makes it, okay, build and fund a ton of studios like in Africa. There we go. That's it. Build and fund a ton of studios in Africa.
Yes. Why can't we
Like
just
to
snap our
release
fingers
games.
and do that?
Yeah, I know, right? It's like it's something which I want to like. It's like what I would love to see. Like I want to see what the landscape of games would look like if we did that, because there are some people here who have like really, really cool ideas, but they might not see the light of day. And it's a shame that, we're not able to like have our own history carved into like the global history as nicely as everyone else is. Like people have like these really interesting stories of how, or case studies. If you look at the case studies of different countries and how their industry started, they're already in such nice positions to do things. So, I'm like, I wish we could have these stories, but we don't. But, who's going to fund us to do this stuff? Yeah. So that's it.
I mean, I agree with you. I want more games set on the continent, more games made on the continent. I deserve a fantasy type game with African folktales and mythology. We all deserve that. Rohan, what about you? If you could change anything about the industry, just make a wish
I
on a
was
genie.
hoping you wouldn't ask me next, so I could just steal Sita's answer. Like, I would say yes. It's pretty much funding, government support. Like, if games are seen as a actual like job that people can earn money in, I think that it will attract like more people to come to study, and go into the industry, make games, and it also gives like the opportunity for people to like fail, because like in Europe, like they get like government funding or art funding, and it's just like there's no expectation of it to be successful or not. But after they've made that game, they've essentially made a game which gives them like already a upper foot than most developers ever get. And like if we had some type of government support, like the industry, I think would like grow like way quicker than what it is, or just funding in general. Like you would get like more studios being able to hire more people, and I think like that would be more representative of like South Africa's demographics and stuff like that.
100%.
So just reiterating what Tita said.
And adding to it. Don't sell yourself short, Rohan. And Kateka, what about for you? Like, if you could change anything about this industry, what would it be?
I guess for me, it would also be like having funding, having the industry actually be recognized in South Africa. But also, I think what I would really love to do, if I were to snap my fingers, I'd have pop-up game cafes in disadvantaged backgrounds, the villages and all the townships. I think that's what I'd do. Yeah.
I love that answer. I have to agree with that. I think it's in a lot of places in like Southeast Asia, you see their internet cafes are quite intense. Like there are cafes with 20 or 30 gaming rigs, like good quality monitors, fast ping, excellent internet that are just existing everywhere. And having something like that in South Africa or just on the continent, I think would also have a huge impact both in the kinds of games that we see being made and just more people knowing, getting interested in making games. I have to agree. I mean, that was such a good answer. It actually distracted me from what my follow-up was going to be. Oh, the one thing I do want to say is I think also as well, when we talk about funding for studios and games, it feels important to also just highlight prototype funding people's abilities to make prototypes, to make demos, to really put something together. Because I think that also helps in terms of finding funding and building out the industry. So I'm going to throw that out there as well.
I think the other thing, just to add on to that point, is that I wish there was like a centralized place for South African devs, because like at least like prototype funding and other types of funding are like available. Obviously you need like there's some type of like barrier for like the quality, but like no one knows those fundings, and it feels like if there was like a place that people who, if they were starting off in the industry or were interested in the industry, could like get information about like just resources in general, like that would be great.
Yeah, like a database almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point as well. It's just like the lack of information, both in terms of the fact that it is theoretically possible to be in the industry in games, but also just information on how to do it, sharing knowledge around the other side of game development. How do you make sure that you can fund a game? How do you make sure that you can work with people and pay them? How do you make sure that if you do make something, your company can stay together as well? I think those are all really good and valuable points that have been brought up. I want to ask Sita, what has helped you keep your passion and inspiration for games and development in the industry alive?
A bunch of things. First of all, I play games, so I'm like, this is a fun thing, and I'm actually in this industry. And having conversations with people in like just having normal conversations with people in the industry, like, it makes me feel really lucky and happy that I'm around. The even the day-to-day stuff at work, some of it, like, it makes me like just like really excited that this is one little part of something of something that is going to be made. And being a part of the industry in general, like us as Africans who are part of the games industry, we're a part of history. So, I mean, it's a bit, not to put pressure on it, but if you think about it that way, like, it's like, wow, I'm a part of something that's much bigger than myself. So sometimes that helps me keep my passion, but most of it is playing games.
I mean, I'm always impressed when devs play games because with what time? But yeah, I mean, playing games is a great way to keep the passion alive. And Kateko, what about for you? What has helped you remain passionate or inspired you to remain in games?
Besides the pressure that is there, I enjoy the pressure to some extent, but
To a reasonable degree.
but I guess also just knowing in the back of my head that I can actually tell stories through gaming. If there's anything that would actually keep me going, is just telling stories through gaming. Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, that's really the perfect, like, I love that answer so much, but let me remain cool and not freak out at the awesome answers you guys are giving me. Bethlehem, what about for you? No pressure, Rohan, but you're gonna go last. So.
So Liv, I think for me the biggest one is really the community, right? You interact with them, you could give them a little bit of this and that with the amount of capacity that I have, but then the next day they come up with these amazing ideas that they even feel like their lives are changed, and that is really priceless, right? So that being number one, I would say I would put number two as being the responsibility that beginning this like 6 years ago in Ethiopia, and knowing that people come to you to, let's say, with the smallest task as like, do you know any devs that can work on this and that? Do you have any graphics designer that are, having the network and being able to share to the community that wants to grow in the industry is, I think, a huge responsibility that really you can't just like let go and just be like, this is me, I need a break. And literally there's not quote unquote break in this.
Wait, is it my hearing or did Bethlehem, are you still here?
Yeah, I think she might have lost her there. Yeah.
For a little bit. Hopefully we'll get her back again because she is giving fire answers as well. Rohan, how about for you?
Personally, it was about passion, right? What keeps you
What
passionate?
keeps you passionate and like inspiration alive?
Yeah, so I mean, I like creating stuff in general, and I feel like games are a medium in which I love to express myself. In terms of like game making or development, the one thing that I really love and like feels really great, and gives me motivation, is that seeing other people like interact with what you've made is like something that I think like not a lot of other mediums can do. Like and also like having, even if it's like one fan or like one person that plays your game, it just feels like really good that you just want to keep on making more stuff. And yeah, that honestly like fuels me. It's like the fact that like people sit down and like want to see what you do. Yeah, it's just like players, I guess, are like usually nice. Sometimes they're not nice, but it's very nice to get people to play your stuff. Yeah.
Damn, that's actually a fantastic answer. I'm a little speechless. Give me 2 seconds. No, I think that's actually really interesting. I mean, Nkateko, for you, have you had the experience of someone playing something you've made, or is there an experience within the creation of games that really speaks to you?
I mean, with the gaming, the game that we're developing is actually our very first game, so it's still under development. But I'd say with my previous experience with VR, just seeing learners and students being able to do their work in the virtual realm was just amazing. And I guess that also just pushed me to have that passion to say, if what I am creating can help someone achieve something, then why not do it? So yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful as well. Sita, what about for you? What has been like one of those moments of like being in the process, being in the industry that's really touched you, got you excited, felt amazing? Meeting
I'm
me?
trying
I
to
agree.
think. Yes, meeting the what? I'm actually trying to think. Oh, one of the moments that, okay, could you repeat the question? I want to make sure I answered
Sure.
correctly.
So like what are some of the experiences or a moment you've had in the industry in the games that's really just been a beautiful, passionate, exciting moment for you, reminded you why you still do it?
I think it was finding the indie game dev community in South Africa. Like that was at one of the Amaze festivals. I forget which one it was. Um, 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 yeah, that actually blew my mind. I was like, wow, people are so eclectic and creative, and people are making games within Africa and all that stuff. And I was just like, I was blown away by the types of games people were making here. And people were so friendly and fun. It 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 was like um yeah, it was very interesting. Like it made me see a whole different side of games, because you're used to seeing the stuff like, what am I used to seeing? EA games and bigger
Play,
games, but
yes.
yes, so you never get to see the smaller types of games that people are making. So that actually really changed how I see things.
I mean, yeah, I get that. That's really cool. I think I'm gonna ask one more question, then it's gonna be time for some serious developmental structural questions. But if you could go back in time and give the younger version of yourself just getting interested in game development, what piece of advice would you give them? Let's start with Nkateko.
I guess for me, wow, okay. I have a lot to say. But yeah, I think I'll just advise the younger me to say, yes, it is a difficult industry, it's a tough industry, but so long as you have the passion for it, you love what you're doing, you have the zeal to do it, and you know why you're doing it, then anything is actually possible. Don't let anything or anyone tell you, no, you can't do this because you're a girl. This is meant for boys. You're just going there to play games. It's nothing about that. Like, it's just do what you love and you see where you go.
I mean, that's beautiful. What about you, Site? If you could give advice to your younger self about the industry, what do you think you'd say to her?
I would introduce myself to more game jam tools and stuff like that. I would just depending on how young you're talking, but I would probably go back and teach myself something like Construct or whatever, because I have lots of fun. I remember when I did first start learning Construct, I had a lot of fun, but now I don't really have much time to explore game development tools, so I'll make myself explore them at a younger age. Like, that's just me wanting me to get back time. lost time or whatever. But
I mean, that's also good advice for any youngins out there, right? Is if you have the time to mess around with game dev tools, do it. What about you, Rohan? What would you say to young Rohan? What advice would you give him?
Yeah, I guess it also depends on the age. I didn't think making games was possible. So if we're talking like high school, I guess I would tell myself that like, hey, you can make games. But after that, maybe like I do programming now, but I studied arts, and I feel like I might have like given like told myself that maybe you should look into programming. You might enjoy it because yeah, it's definitely like feels a weird way of being creative, but it is kind of creative. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people call programming a language, so it's almost like being able to construct
Yeah,
a
exactly.
beautiful story idea in this new language.
Yeah, totally. It's like for me, I think the one thing I really enjoy about programming is that it's like problem solving.
Mm.
But the like many small problems, but then at the end of it, you get to like play the thing that you made, which is like, I don't know, it just feels like, you know, when you're drawing, you know like what's gonna happen at the end of it, or you see the process of that happening. It's like when you're coding, it's like so it's like a different way of interacting with the game, and then you get to like experience it also, which is like something
Which
super
is
nice.
beautiful. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty incredible. Let's all take a moment to enjoy these beautiful. I mean, I think this is really interesting and beautiful because it's also a question of like, you know, yes, you're giving yourself advice, but you're also giving the new youth, the, you know, the us 2.0 and 3.0 who are coming in the same kind of advice. It's exciting, and it's always good to hear that even, or like good to remember that even though there are a lot of difficulties structurally, there is a reason we're here and we're fighting for this. And I think it's also nice to always remember that. Speaking of those difficulties, how how are you finding the current state of diversity in developer groups, like at the moment for you know, everyone on the panel? Sita, don't worry, I'll answer for you. I know how you're finding it because we work together. We find it great. Joking. But yeah, Sita, how do you find the current state of diversity in developer groups?
The current state of diversity in the game development industry in
Mm.
SA, basically.
Yeah, and like also in content, this, you know, the content in games as well.
Oh, okay. Definitely room for improvement. Like I don't know when we'll get to where we're going, but all I can really say is there's room for improvement. Like because we've been talking about this, like yeah, we've been talking about this in general, like
Since I think since I like got into games, I think the first year we did.
yes, and yeah, and even just outside of that, like at yeah, it'll definitely be years or ways ahead of us, ways ahead till we get to a place where we're representative of what the general population looks like. And I think people making deliberate efforts, it would be nice to see more of that, more of people making deliberate efforts. But you know, I also want to say, like, it's awesome hearing from Kateko, like, who is at a female-owned studio, like, and like that's I don't know if I know any female-owned studios in SA. So that's something which I'm like, oh, okay, things are actually changing now at conferences and panels. So yeah, so initiatives like this that, you know, bring people to the forefront are how we're going to actually see the changes that are happening. So more of this, it takes us to where we're heading.
Agreed. But yeah, we've been in it, hey? We have been in it. Rohan, how about you? Like, how are you finding the current state of diversity, both in the developers and in content being developed?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not great, and it should improve, and hopefully it does improve. And I agree with Sita that there needs to be like, yeah, more direct initiatives or like, yeah, stuff actually tackling the issue. In terms of like content being created, I think that looking outside of South Africa, I do think that like games are like, I mean, indie games and like AA games, there's like a space for more types of stories and different types of games, which has been like more like representing different types of people and stuff, which is, even if it's not representing as like your demographic or whatever, I assume that, at least for me, it inspires me to like know that that is possible. You know, like other industries like Indonesia and stuff, like them making games for their demographic feels like they're not a big industry, but like, you know, South Africa could potentially also do stuff like that. And yeah, and that's also, I guess, it's definitely valid and exciting, and you know, will inspire some people to make stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Nkateko, how about for you?
I think I'm just gonna echo what Rohan and Site are saying. But also to say, less talk. If only we could have like the industry in South Africa recognized, have programs that expose people to this industry. I think that would actually make a difference. Just change in general, and finally learning to accept that this industry is actually there, and a lot of people can do a lot of things within the industry, and you know, them being creatives and so on. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic answer. It leads quite nicely into the next question, which is how important is it to run projects like this, bringing game development into townships when it comes, yeah, like just how valuable, how important do you think that is in Nkateko?
I think it is actually, that's a good question, because coming from a township and not having access to any of this, you know, at a tuck shop where you play with like 50 cents and that's that. But I mean, having these programs in the townships actually puts the word out there that there's this certain industry where you can actually have a career in, you know. It's not just about all these other well-known careers, you know. There's also something within the gaming industry, and it's not that you are just gonna be a programmer or an animator. I mean, there are so many different roles within the industry that one can take on. So having these type of programs within the township is actually an eye-opener for the kids in the township, because I mean, I've seen with the other game jams that we've had in the township, some of them didn't even know that, you know, they could actually be game developers and actually have a career in the industry. So I guess it also helps a lot to, you know, give them a broader choice to choose careers.
I agree 100%. Thank you so much. Sita, how about for you?
The question is, do I think these programs,
Yeah, such as the program being run by Goethe, you know, do you think it's positive and valuable to have the like game jams in the townships, you know, making people aware of the existence of game development and the experiences?
yeah, of course, because it's, you know, just because like of someone's socioeconomic background, it doesn't mean like they shouldn't be exposed to what other people have a chance to be exposed to. You know, even if it might mean that, even if at the moment maybe their circumstances might not allow them to pursue game development as much, but them being exposed to that, like, you know, down the line, it, you know, their lives could change, and maybe or they could decide to pursue it regardless of whatever circumstances are actually barring them from entering the industry, because I know it is still like no matter what, it is still difficult to enter the industry if you don't have the resources. So yeah, it's definitely important to expose people. Like, we shouldn't hold this industry away from people. Yeah.
100%. Rohan, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all the points. It's just it is important. I mean, I can't say more. I guess
I know there's very little to say to this answer.
yeah, I guess it's just like sustainability, I think, is also important. Like you know, like introducing something to someone is great, but continuing or like offering resources in which they can pursue it, I think is like as equally important. I know Goethe has like the game hub, which is like a great initiative also, and yeah, like just giving people the opportunity to know about it, but also the opportunity to constantly explore learning and improving.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you guys so much. I have been told that it is time to do Q&A. So I'm going to cede over control to my minion that I've just decided is my minion now to read it and ask the questions from the audience. So if anyone's in the audience, please feel free to ask us a bunch of questions.
Thank you, Adi. Thank you, Site, Nkateko, Rohan, and if Bethlehem is hearing us, if it's possible, thanks to her as well. The black box that's on the corner for the attendees, that's Kim. He's also a part of the project as of the Every Game Accounts project as a project coordinator. So I'm just gonna read on. So just to also put context, while there are questions that are coming in the session, but we also have questions from social media because it's all over the place. We out there, you know, we're doing the things. So the question from the session, actually don't have the name for this person, but they're asking a very good question. They're saying these discussions are important. My question is, have you ever experienced what could be tokenism? And if so, how did you handle it? Right, so it's not directed at anyone, so I think anyone can respond, or Dimpo, it's up to you, like you can dish it out.
I mean, I was gonna ask like if anyone on the panel has had this kind of experience, and is there anyone who'd like to answer the question? Rohan.
Yeah, I mean, not in South Africa, but definitely overseas, I think. Like, yeah, tokenism. Yeah, it's just like a person of color is a token, I guess. I don't know. I've
Yeah.
definitely like experienced like people treating you a bit different, no matter what work you do. It's just like how you look, which is like a weird thing because it's important to have like representation, but it's also like over compensating that it creates other like othering. And yeah, it's a bit of a weird one in that this is obviously like indie community. I haven't experienced AAA community. Yeah, I don't think it's like a thing that's spoken about enough, that like being like overcompensating and not like it's usually like people don't like do anything about diversity, but like if a diverse like person is in the industry, they definitely like are like othering you by like pointing out that you are a person of color, which is like a weird thing because it's like no other, everyone else is like judged on the work that they're doing and not necessarily the color of their skin or the gender.
Yeah, 100. Sita?
Yeah, I wanted to add on to what Rohan said because it's a tricky one. It is a tricky one because like personally, I have felt tokenized. Yeah, I have experienced tokenism, but the thing it's a weird it's weird because you never know how valid it is, how valid of a feeling it is for you, because you're like, you do acknowledge obviously you're a person of color, and it's good to have representation, but at what point does it become tokenism? Like it's weird because you don't know when that line is, and it's something which you might have to decide for yourself internally, like that you're not comfortable with this. But then even if you have decided that for yourself internally, people outside might not recognize that or acknowledge that themselves as well. And yeah, it's a tricky one. And I also don't know how to deal with it. Like it sometimes it also feels like it's possibly a distraction, like, or maybe that's how I feel personally. Like it can be distracting to think about it because you're like, no one else has to think about it. It's kind of unfair that you have to grapple with whether or not you're being represented or whether you're feeling tokenized. It's like, can I catch a break? Like, can't I just be? Can't I just be?
Can't I just exist in this
Yes,
space?
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what have I done about it? Nothing.
Oh, it's just beautiful. But I agree. I think it's like tokenism is very difficult to deal with because it is something you have to sort of like it's such a, I think it can be a little bit alienating as well, especially if you feel as though you're the token, because it's like, well, I'm the one here. So there's also a pressure to almost represent everyone from your community or group because it's just you. And I think that also makes it very hard. What I try and do when I experience it is I try and use that as leverage to make things better for other people, to bring attention, to try and have difficult conversations. And oftentimes, if that doesn't work or it's too much energy and it's not obviously, public facing, I make the people doing the tokenizing feel very uncomfortable with how I talk about the issues and, making fun comments and jokes at their expense and sort of just creating that, really just making them question it. But I don't always recommend that. I am a Scorpio, so I'm a terrible person naturally. Just what happens when you're born in November. But yeah, I think there are many ways to deal with it. And I think trying to turn it into a positive at the very least of using it as an opportunity to make things better for the people who come after you is a good way to deal with it and handle it and to push down the frustration so that you're not swearing at people. I strongly suggest not swearing at people. Yeah, guys, folks, everyone who's listening to the chat, please, if you guys have any more questions, send them through.
Okay, yeah, I see we kind of have we don't have much more time to accept any more, but what we can do is just quickly, if in the panel someone does have a question for someone else in the panel, let's just make this just let's switch things up a bit today. And then because I know some of you guys are meeting each other for the first time. I know, like, yeah, and that would be quite interesting, don't you think, Dimple? I mean, I'm not I hope I'm not overstepping, but I just find we didn't have this chance yesterday, so.
That's actually true. That's a good point. I'm going to let that go but I do also want to ask Nkateko, what is the experience of being at like a female-led studio been like?
Been great. It has been great. I mean, I have a great team. I mean, my ladies they're amazing. So they just make the journey even like easy, you know. We all just have the passion for what we're doing. So it's actually very nice, you know. We have each other's backs. You know, when there's something that someone needs help with, you know, we always there for each other. You know, I think I'm blessed. I got the best team. So it's been great. It's been wonderful.
Lovely.
And who wants to ask any other questions?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Go for it.
I mean, I know Sita and D, so question up for you guys. And Kateko, you are part of like the precinct incubation stuff.
Yes.
How is
Yes,
that?
I have.
Yeah, I don't know anything about like how the incubation works and those kind of things. Like, is it like supporting your studio in like creating the game, or
Yes.
is it funding?
Yeah. So basically what the precinct is doing, it's an incubation program for startup studios. So basically they're like supporting us with funding and equipment, software, just to, you know, get our product out there, and also marketing as well. So that's what the precinct is actually doing. And there's a lot of PR, a whole lot of PR, but yeah, it's great.
Cool. And then follow on to that is how many startup studios are like in games?
There are 3 studios currently incubated there. There's just the 3 of us in our team. The other team has 3. I think the others have like 5 or so. But yeah, the other guys, I know they continuing with development with the game that they had already started working on like a year ago, I think. And then the other guys have been working, and then there's us, the newborn babies. But yeah,
you can mention them because they're
I don't know.
cool.
I have a lot of fun there. Okay, so there's South Game Studio, and then and then there's Skinny Boy Studio, and then there's Team Attribute. So the guys from Team Attribute are all from Wits, and then the Skinny Boys, I'm not so sure, but around Pretoria, and then South Game is like Joburg, Pretoria, but yeah, one studio. So yeah, it's just 3 studios at the precinct.
Oh, no.
That
Thank
is awesome.
Yeah, okay. I know I said we would round up the questions. Just quickly, because we have quite a lot of studios here in this panel, right? Right across the whole country, which is amazing, right? All different types as well. Now we got I just want to ask, how is it, because I know like Yamakop and Free Lives, you guys, you do amazing work. And also South Game, you will soon be doing amazing work because I'm following your journey there. But what I'm quite interested in is working with big publishers, like for example, you guys Free Lives with Devolve and things like that. How is that experience? Like, I'm always curious to like know that, like, how do you feel that you are prioritized, in the studios that they have in their roster, or in the products that they have? Is it also another case of tokenism that you feel like, they just got us there because we're an African studio or whatever? So I just want to find out in terms of that and the deadlines. How's that whole thing going? Great game, by
Yeah,
the way.
so thanks. So I think the Free Lives initial game, Broforce, that game there is essentially what kind of solidified the relationship with Devolver. So and that game is definitely like, it doesn't seem, I mean, no Free Lives game seems South African really. So there's no like tokenism in that sense. It's like definitely just indie games. So I don't think Devolver has that thing, and Devolver is definitely like very picky with their roster. In terms of like, do they value us versus like other studios? I think it's because Free Lives has had like, I think 4 games now released with them, and now the 3 upcoming games released with them. Devolver is like quite a big company, so there's definitely like individual producers that we get, and they help us with, like, we recently got shown at PAX in America, and different like exhibitions, like they do all the marketing and stuff, and yeah, they're just there to support you. In terms of deadlines, which is like a different thing, Free Lives is all self-funded, so Devolver just does like the marketing and like the business and distribution and all that stuff. So when deadlines happen, Free Lives isn't like really committed as much to a deadline because we don't take money from them. So they don't really enforce deadlines. It's just like our expense if the deadline goes over. And yeah, and that's, yeah, the deadlines are kind of like loose in the sense that we can decide, but like they do set up milestones and they help us do producing. Adene, who used to work at Free Lives, is now working at Devolver, and she does some of the producing for Free Lives. Yeah, so there's a very close relationship between Devolver and Free Lives already, that it feels like they give us like more than enough time. Yeah, but also we don't need to, they don't set anything that we don't like, kind of thing. It's usually, yeah, like equal balanced relationship. Yeah, but obviously that's a bit different to other publishers and other studios.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm waiting for Dimple or Sita to go on how their experience is.
Look, our experience with has been really good. It's been one definitely of like support. There are like, we're not self-funded, unfortunately. But so there are deadlines, but it's definitely been an experience where it doesn't feel as though the milestones or deadlines are working against us, but rather for us. And so it's been very lovely to have an experience with about in terms of like building that kind of relationship, working relationship of understanding the kind of support we can get and the growth that we can see from it. So for us, it's been good. But I also have it on record that some publishers, do you need the money? Some publishers, it's a lot harder. There's a lot more control or oversight in ways that aren't beneficial to the project or to the studio. And so it's been really great having an experience where it's very clear and was clear from the onset that this was a publisher who would work with us in the best interests of the game and of the studio as a whole. So it's been a really good experience.
Thank you. Dimple, I think you can moderate yourself now back into into moderator mode.
Yeah, I did get back. Like you can hear it in like my voice change. It's like suddenly my voice is deeper, speak a bit slower.
The switch, yeah.
It's like that. All right, guys. Thank you all so much. We have our last 4 minutes. Is there any last questions or comments before we head out? I'd love to say thank you to our incredible panelists. Special shout out to Bethlehem for making it, even though she couldn't stay for the entirety of it. You guys have been incredible. So for the panelists, why don't you let us know where people can find you online if they want to search for you, and what your favorite game is called Fallout New Vegas. What's your favorite game, Fallout New Vegas? We can start with you. Where can people find you? Which social media is playing which Fallout New Vegas games?
Yeah, people can find me on Twitter at hi_Rahan. And then for the Gen Zs out there, you can find me on TikTok at hi_Rahan, no underscore. And then and in terms of Fallout, this one, I'm going to disappoint and say I haven't played Fallout, any of them. So I'm going to go with what's Fallout 3? Which one is
New
Fallout
Vegas.
3? Okay, New Vegas.
Not New Vegas. There is Fallout 3, but we don't talk about that Fallout.
Oh, okay. Whichever one is the best one. That's the one. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rohan. Nkateko, you don't have to tell us which favorite Fallout New Vegas is your favorite Fallout New Vegas. You can choose any game.
We don't talk about 76. No one talks about 76.
What's that? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay. So I'm on. Okay, no. The studio is on Instagram at South Game Studio. We're also on LinkedIn, South Game Studio. I'm on LinkedIn, Nkateko Kupai. We're not on Facebook. Twitter, South Game Studio as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Peter, where can your fan club find you?
You can find me, I think everywhere it's _ Lady Sith. Yeah, so that would be Twitter, Instagram, yes, TikTok, I guess, but I don't post TikToks. I just watch other people's TikToks. And LinkedIn, Site Nube. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And you guys can all find me at Just Dimpho, that's JUSTLIMPHO on Twitter and on Instagram. And you can find me as Dimpho Moeti, as my name is on the screen on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn with this name. You can find me. Thank you guys all so much. It's been a real pleasure. You guys have been an incredible panel. Thank you to the Goethe-Institut for hosting these. They've been fantastic. Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you, Valani. I mean,
Thank-
I think I've done everything for you now.
Yeah,
does it
yeah,
feel?
you got everything. Yeah, I'll just have to press
How does
the end button now to end the meeting. But I'll just also want to just thank everyone. Just thank everyone for coming through this. Kim coming through Robocop Steve. Yeah, he's the man. Yeah, we've been through it all in the townships. It's been quite a great experience though, just finding out like what you guys were talking about earlier, like the new, like people have some off the wall ideas, and that's what we wanted to see, right? Things that we would never have come across, like in the, you know, in the traditional, in the circles that we are in, which is great. And I like the fact that when Rohan was talking about sustainability, and that's what's actually one of the main things for us as well. We're not just dipping in the townships and going out. We're literally setting up some of the centers there, and we leaving the software there for so the communities to come and actually, you know, develop, learn more. They can come to the institute as well, and you know, and you know, we've got a very long history in the game development scene in SA. You know, long partnerships with amazing things like that, and you want to see those projects sometimes in at some point at Dimpo, Playtopia, and things like that in the future. So yeah, I'm just like letting you know now, like whoever is there now, because I know you're not longer there or whatever. I don't know what situation is there, but we need these games
I
there.
have a new, we're gonna be studio.
We need all. So somehow they need to be showcased somewhere. So this is great. They will really help the you know, just because the ideas are just insane that are coming there. It's not your typical stuff, and it's amazing. We will be presenting some of the findings later on, of course. You know, in the whole, all these things that keep happening, festivals and such. But yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks to the audience. Thanks to the attendees. Thanks to the panelists. Thanks to everyone who supported the project, and for you guys for making time. Definitely, this is ongoing. Let's stay in contact. And yeah, Goethe-Institut, anytime we are available, we are there for you guys. Let us, yeah, hit us up, you know, that's what it's about. And then with that, I would like to say, oh yeah, one more thing I have to mention. We have Nisa, she's joining as one of the attendees. She's actually the head of the information department, and she signs off on all this craziness that's happening here. Yeah, I fear for her, but I don't want to be here as well, but yeah, this is why it's possible. So we have people like that we can believe, who believe in these sort of things. This is a first. Congratulations to Free Lives. That game is amazing. What I'm seeing, I haven't played it. I know it's legendary. Apparently, there's been a version of it that was out already. But I'm waiting for the Steam version. Congratulations to CT for being nominated, shortlisted for the Gay Women in Games Global Awards for an amazing project. Timpo, you keep doing this. So I don't know what you're up to. So I can congratulate you because you always like, it's all secretive. I don't know what's happening there. So, but congratulations on whatever you are up to. And Katego, yeah, hopefully with your game, congratulations on the game. I hope when it gets finished, of course, you know, like we're here, let us know, we want to play it. And Kim, yeah, we got more work to do. So next week on Friday, the 16th, we have the last panel discussion. It will be a hybrid event. So you are invited. Everyone is here is invited to the Institute. You can come and just join us there. And then, yeah, we'll also be the opening night for the game, for the final game jam. Yeah, so thank you. And that is it from us, and au revoir.
Au revoir. Thank you all so much. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you, guys.
Bye. Thank you.